All right, so we're going to start talking about abiotic cycles. This teak is 4C, and there's a bunch of different cycles we are going to talk about. So this is the first one, specifically the rock cycle. Okay, so some vocab for you. Abiotic, since we're talking about abiotic cycles, abiotic means non-living. All right, so these are things that are not alive. Some examples of that are going to be water, air, rocks, soil. Okay. The opposite of that is biotic. Biotic means living. So examples of that, any living thing is going to be animals, plants, basically any living organism. So we're going to start talking about cycles that involve, that are not alive. Okay, so rocks, first of all, they are naturally occurring solids made up of minerals and mineral-like materials. All right, there are 3 different types of rock that we're going to start talking about in this section: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. In this set of notes, anything that's in red, bold, underlined, that's what you're going to fill in on your notes handout in Schoology. And since this is kind of in an ed puzzle, it'll pause every once in a while for you to answer some questions, but just kind of giving you a heads up there. So the rock cycle says it slowly changes rocks from one type to another through different methods. So it can be either heating, melting, cooling, weathering, and erosion. Okay, so weathering, erosion is kind of like breaking down that material. Okay, so this is how rocks are formed. All right. So with these different types of rocks, the first type, igneous, it's formed when magma cools and solidifies, and it says it can be either intrusive or extrusive. So we're going to talk about that on the next slide, but with the roots here, intrusive or extrusive, basically inside Earth or outside of the Earth's crust, okay? Sedimentary, it's formed when sediments cement together or when water evaporates and leaves behind minerals. And there's 3 different types of sedimentary rock. We'll talk about that later too. You don't have to know that, but it's just kind of interesting information. And then metamorphic, these form when heat or pressure changes the structure of an existing rock. So metamorphic rock can actually be either igneous or sedimentary that has kind of been changed due to heat or pressure. Okay, so first up, igneous rock. So like I said, there's 2 different types of igneous rock, intrusive or extrusive. So intrusive means that magma is cooling slowly under the Earth's surface. So an example of that is going to be granite rock. So over here is an example of that granite rock. Extrusive means it's forming after lava erupts on the Earth's surface and is cooling. So an example of that is called basalt, and there's a picture of that below. And then our next type is sedimentary. So this is when our first type, clastic, forms when sediment, they build up over time and become compacted. So compacted means it's kind of like pushed together. All right, so here's an example of clastic sedimentary rock. And this is also how we get coal, okay? So remember, anything that's bold, red, underline is going to be what you fill in on your notes section of your handout. Okay, and then we also have chemical and biochemical sedimentary rock. So chemical, water is evaporating and leaving behind minerals. That can be limestone, gypsum, rock salt. So over here on the right, this is an example of limestone. And then specifically, this is actually biochemical sedimentary rock. It's this limestone along the English Channel. Okay, so it's kind of cool looking. And then we also have our third type, metamorphic rock. So this is when rock has been exposed to heat, pressure, or both heat and pressure. So the heat is reshaping the crystals within the rock and it's changing its appearance. The pressure is causing minerals in the rock to recrystallize or kind of come together in a different way. And then we have two different types here. The first type is marble. So marble was actually once limestone, and limestone was our sedimentary rock. And then we also have, so this is our marble up here. And then soapstone was once peridotite or igneous rock. And so we have our soapstone down here on the bottom. And then this is kind of just an overview of the cycle and how everything is kind of related. So you have your three different types of rock: igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic. All right, and then we also have in this cycle sediment and then magma or lava. So up here, all these different arrows, they're colored and they're kind of representing how like what can happen between different parts of this cycle, okay? So for example, if sedimentary rock is exposed to, if we follow this arrow here, this red arrow, heat and pressure, it becomes metamorphic. Same thing with igneous. If igneous rock, we follow this arrow here, is exposed to heat and pressure, it also becomes metamorphic, okay? And if that metamorphic rock is exposed to melting, or igneous rock or sedimentary rock, that's what this orange arrow represents, then it becomes lava or magma. Okay. And then we have a solitary blue arrow here. So from sediment, so sediment are like those tiny particles. If once they settle out, they become sedimentary rock. All right. And then we have this yellow arrow, cooling and crystallization. So after magma or lava cools, okay, it becomes igneous rock. And then our last arrow, our gray arrow, weathering and erosion. So igneous rock can break down and become sediment. So it can metamorphic and sedimentary rock. It can kind of break down if it's exposed to the elements. It becomes sediment again. So there's a part on your notes for you to fill out this cycle, just kind of an overview. And I believe that is the end of this lesson. Okay, so here's kind of an overview of the rock cycle. Just make sure you filled out your notes, and I'll see you at the next lesson.